Welcome to Headline Buster, brought to you by The Point with me, Liu Xin. In this series, I dissect stories that are making headlines around the world and talk to my guests to compensate for the missing pieces of the puzzle. So join us in real time by sending us your comments or questions via the CGTN page on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube or Weibo. If you're watching this live on the CGTN application, email me at thepointwithlx@cgtn.com. Let me know what you think. We start our live streaming every Friday at 11 a.m. Beijing time, so do get in touch and I might read out your comments. Speaking of which, let's read some of the comments we've received from our viewers via social media. And this one first from Adam R. Who helped China to grow up? Is not a capitalism countries like US. History teach us that China as a communist country still is a communist regime. If US didn't open international market to China, I'm not sure that now China could almost, yes, almost not really be a developed country. I think I get what you wanted to say. Well, I think just because you are accepted by your friends, you still have to work hard and grow up yourself, right? It's like you can watch my show to learn English, but you still have to practice on your own. Next comment from Michael C888. America elected itself as a world cop because it no longer wants to see another world war after World War II. That is the reason for all the USA military battles around the world after World War II. They saw tens of millions dead from all sides. It doesn't want to see communism, socialism, totalitarian and dictatorial spread around the globe because those are things that could ignite into world wars and also destroys individualism and handcuffs people's freedoms and rights. Well, we all know what American cops are famous for, and it's not peace, freedom, or rights. And judging by the kind of action they're taking now, they're actually doing quite the opposite. It almost feels like they can't wait to provoke China into another war. Is that the kind of peace that the American cop is trying to keep? Finally, Chris Malcolmson. The US never ended the Cold War. It continues to threaten and attack countries that don't do what they want. This kind of attitude belongs in the last century. I realize China has its problems, but it plays the game far better than the US, and they don't like it. Nope, they don't like it at all. It's like a sore loser of a game you design. What do? You say, game over. I'm not playing by my own rules anymore. Or do you say, okay, it's not fun anymore, let me try harder? Or you can say, let's talk and agree on a new set of rules and a new game and see who's better. Anyway, this week, we're going to talk about TikTok, arguably the hottest social media app on the market at this moment. And the United States really doesn't like the rules that they have designed themselves. And this topic has captured the imagination of hundreds of millions of users around the world. Actually, this application I meant. Over 100 million in the US have downloaded alone in the US, and that's according to the company. Now, the application has provided an outlet for creativity and entertainment, especially among Gen Z. I don't think I need to explain here. As coronavirus triggered lockdowns around the world, the app became an even more vital platform for users to connect in hard times. And now the app has become ensnared in a toxic web of politics, profit, and power. Basically, just hours ago, US President Donald Trump signed an executive order that would ban TikTok from operating in the US in 45 days if it's not sold by its Chinese parent company ByteDance. Last week, he already made the threat. Let's take a listen.
We're looking at TikTok. We may be banning TikTok. We may be doing some other things. There are a couple of options.
Conveniently, an American company, Microsoft, said it's willing to step in and save TikTok's American business. Trump has given Microsoft his blessing to cut a deal by September the 15th. He also says the U.S. government should get money from the sale, though he did not say how that would be accomplished. U.S. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has called the situation a win-win. Does he mean a win for Microsoft and a win for Trump? ByteDance, the app's Beijing-based parent company, sees things differently. The company's founder and CEO Zhang Yiming said in an internal letter that we don't agree with the decision because we have always adhered to protecting users' data and maintaining the platform's neutrality and transparency. Actually, some newspaper articles have compared this deal as a kind of shotgun marriage. Anyway, the company says it stores its data on American users on servers in the US or Singapore. But no matter what the company says or does, and despite having no proof, critics won't listen. That sounds familiar, right? Be bored or be banned. Trump's ultimatum stands. Now, behind the official line that the app poses national security threats by sharing user data with its parent company and ultimately with the Chinese government under China's internet security law, other motivations were also floated. That Trump wants to punish the app after users claim they used the app to help disrupt his rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma by reserving tickets but not using them. Hey, I think they did the right thing if they really did that, because that spared Oklahoma a few unnecessary COVID-19 deaths, possibly. And that Trump is helping American tech companies pluck the ripest fruit from Chinese companies by brokering a deal that boosts U.S. tech giants while taking another swipe at China. See, the U.S. has no monopoly on innovation. Chinese ideas can be good too. Regardless, TikTok users in the US are enraged, with many posting their concerns online.
Whoever's seeing this, keep on fighting. Keep on fighting for this app.
Hey guys, so you probably heard, what happened at the TikToks. And I just wanted to say to all my 35 followers that, I love you, I support you.
Well, that's unfortunate. The saga is evolving every day, and the outlook isn't looking too friendly for Chinese companies that dare to succeed in the U.S. In fact, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo just released a statement on Thursday urging American companies to bar all Chinese apps, networks, clouds, you name it. He calls it a clean network effort to safeguard American assets and is even calling on American allies and partners to join the growing tide to secure our data from the CCP surveillance state and other malign entities. A clean network coming from the biggest spy nation in the world? That's really ironic. And if anyone can spy on you, it has to be the US of A. Or some people have said, go and poll Germans and ask them whether they want a clean network from the United States. Of course, Pompeo doesn't have the power to enforce such a ban, but it reflects the Trump administration's bigger effort to strangle Chinese companies within the US and around the world. So how are the media covering this story? Are they doing due diligence, asking the right questions, or complicit in the Trump administration's attempt to smear the application? My first example would seem to suggest the latter. The Washington Post on August the 3rd published a piece. It's not just the United States. These governments see TikTok as a growing problem. It's very vague, it's very general, it's very correct, but it's not accurate. Now, the article says, in recent months, as tensions between Washington and Beijing mounted amid the novel coronavirus pandemic, analysts and officials have become increasingly concerned that the app, which is owned by the Beijing-based internet company ByteDance, could give the Chinese government access to a wide range of user data. The article adds, but the United States is not alone. Here are some places that have raised alarm over TikTok. Going on, and the article goes on to list 8 countries in total. But the countries listed here have vastly different kinds of concerns over the app, even though the headline seems to suggest otherwise. False equivalence. For example, it says India banned the app earlier this summer, which is true, but it did so in the wake of border skirmish with Chinese troops in the Himalayas. And TikTok was just one among 50 other Chinese apps that were banned. So this was much more about politics than any national security concerns. Pakistan and India also appeared on the list, but their concerns are around content, not data collection. It says, for example, Indonesia temporarily banned the app in 2018, citing concerns including pornography, inappropriate content, and blasphemy. blasphemy? Twitter should be banned for good because there is so much blasphemy against the Chinese people, against China. Now, the ban was lifted less than a week later after the app agreed to censor some of its content, so the problem isn't the same. It's not about data security, and the problem has been resolved. The article also lists the European Union, but then says the EU hasn't issued any formal warning or ban on TikTok, but the app has come under scrutiny from the blog's data protection watchdogs, who launched a probe into its privacy policies in mid-July. Well, okay, but let's not forget that American tech companies like Twitter and Facebook are also knee-deep in controversy under Europe's regulation, which is constantly challenging tech companies over data security. Turkey is also mentioned. The article says Anadolu Agency, Turkey's state-run news agency, announced last month that the country's Personal Data Protection Authority has begun an investigation into TikTok and how the platform handles personal data. But again, it fails to mention that this same authority also fined Facebook just last October 1.6 million lira, or about $280,000 for violating data protection laws, which affected nearly 300,000 people. Of course, all these new apps raise important questions that should be explored, but you can't suggest all the concerns are TikTok specific. The article creates a false impression while missing the whole picture. Interestingly, Australia also appears on the same list. The article says Australia's Prime Minister has instructed the country's intelligence agencies and its Department of Home Affairs to investigate the app's potential security threat and its data and privacy policies. But as our next piece suggests, Australia is not about to ban TikTok. Let's take a closer look at the related reports. Published by Australia's most widely read newspaper, the Sydney Morning Herald, this article gives a more neutral picture. Published on August the 5th, the headline reads, "Buyer beware. Prime Minister says there is no case to ban TikTok." Here we see both sides of the issue laid out. Yes, concerns exist, but no, there is no evidence at this point that justifies banning an app over mere suspicions. The article reads, Australia will not ban TikTok after security agencies found the Chinese company did not pose serious national security concerns. And that Prime Minister Scott Morrison said on Wednesday morning the Australian government had a good look at whether to ban apps such as TikTok and concluded there was no reason for us to restrict those applications at this point. But it adds that Morrison warned there were still risks that personal data could be sent back to Beijing, and there is a sort of buyer beware process. Yeah, buy it if you want, or don't download it. The article adds that the Australian government will continue to look at ways to manage the privacy concerns posed by social media companies such as TikTok, meaning that TikTok is not the only app raising such concerns. But more importantly, the article calls out that a more nuanced conversation is required rather than a flat-out ban. Overall, it represents a story in a fair and rational way. Finally, we have a Wall Street Journal piece which I would like to commend for pointing out some pretty alarming details. The piece, Trump says U.S. should get slice of TikTok sale price, published on August the 3rd, explores Trump's unlikely and unsavory role as broker in this hostile takeover, an angle some other media gloss over. The article says Trump claimed he was ready to approve a purchase of the U.S. operations of TikTok, but only if the government receives a lot of money. He said that, a lot of money in exchange, an assertion of presidential power that appeared to lack precedent. Lack of precedent is a gentle way of putting it, but the piece didn't shy away from including some more vivid analysis. One analyst says it's completely unorthodox for a president to propose that the U.S. take a cut of a business deal, especially a deal that he has orchestrated. The idea also is probably illegal and unethical. Okay, another expert argues it was unlikely any payment would stand up, that there is no situation where either Microsoft or the Chinese or TikTok or ByteDance will be sending a check to the U.S. government except in the normal course of their regular tax obligations. But President Trump talked about a lot of money. Yet another said Trump's proposal reminded him of medieval kings who oversaw salt monopolies. If you wanted to mine some salt, you put money into royal treasury. Are we talking about the United States of America, the beacon of the world, the shining city on top of the hill? It really makes you wonder where the limit lies. But perhaps one of the best quotes came from American late-night host Jimmy Fallon. He said, with the coronavirus surging and the economy cratering, President Trump is turning his attention to what's really important, banning TikTok. Apparently, he says, this is a real national security threat. The Chinese government knowing which Americans can and cannot dance. Classic. Okay, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll talk to my guests about the biggest problems, if there are any. Oh yeah, the biggest problems about President Trump's threat to ban TikTok. Stay with me.